we really would like to appreciate each and every one of you who have joined us today to launch two documents. One, looking at what counties have been able to do in the first 6 years of devolution in relation to own sources revenue. And the second one, guidelines on training on own sources revenue for the counties. This has been a journey where we have the support of various institutions, because when we talk about the guidelines, it was a multi-agency task force guided by the Commission on Revenue Allocation, where we had the National Treasury, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, I know they are represented here, the County Assemblies Forum, they're represented here, the Council of Governors, the Ministry of Devolution and SAL, they are represented here, the Kenya Law Reform Commission, KIPRA, and the Kenya Revenue Authority, represented by a commissioner in this meeting, but during the work that was done, they had KESRA, Kenya School of Revenue Administration, which was the team leading this work. It has been a long and wonderful journey seeking to entrench devolution in this country. And that's why we say we want to thank everyone who has joined us today to see the culmination of this journey.
Every so often, we read in the papers, the counties are crying because they have not received their equitable share from the National Treasury. Does this have to be the case? Just think of it. If we increased our own source revenues, we would have a buffer zone to take us to the next release of the equitable share. And therefore, the pain of waiting will be reduced or eliminated altogether. So overall, we are saying that increasing our own source revenues or improving from the levels where we are will give us the freedom to budget, and that will ultimately improve service delivery to the citizens.
It is, of course, high time that we took stock of the performance on devolution, especially on resource mobilization. Because devolution is not just about service delivery and development, it's about also managing the resources at the level of the counties, because those resources speak or inform the resources for the entire country. You're aware that my office is an independent institution established under Article 229 of the Constitution with the primary oversight role of ensuring accountability in the public sector, both at the national and the county levels. And the Constitution requires of me to confirm whether or not during my audits that public money is being applied lawfully and effectively, including the raising of revenue. And the Public Audit Act requires me to confirm that all reasonable precautions have been taken to safeguard the collection of revenue and the acquisition, receipt, issuance, and proper use of assets and liabilities. Our audit reports have continually highlighted various challenges with regard to own source revenue, and they are in the public limelight. They include lack of automation and integration of revenue administration, very, very critical. They include weak revenue forecasting and analysis, because, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, revenue accounting starts with forecasting. That when you say you're going to raise 2 billion, then you better start working towards raising that 2 billion. Weak internal controls in revenue collection, inadequate mapping of revenue sources, under collection of revenue, and declining revenue collection in some counties, But indeed, you shall see from the report that there are some counties whose revenue raising has increased. We have, of course, misappropriation of revenue, leakages, and outright theft. And there's revenue that is collected that we never see it being banked, spent at source with lack of accountability. Now, as a result of these challenges, service delivery by county governments and development at the county government levels has been hampered. Now, I believe that the recommendations in the report will greatly improve revenue management and transparency and accountability of revenue collection. And in turn, this will lead to improved service delivery and enhance the lives and livelihoods of the citizens at the county level. I also note that the training guidelines cover various topics that speak to management and administration of revenue. They cover areas of analysis and forecasting, areas of on-source revenue administration, areas of revenue accounting, which is very, very key for me. And indeed, when we implement these training guidelines, then the excuse that we have had perennially, that we have no capacity, will be a thing of the past.
We have taken stock of the last 6 years of devolution to see how counties have done in terms of mobilizing their own revenue. Today, we also launch the on-source revenue training guidelines. These guidelines have been developed for the county executive and assemblies to use as a resource in training their staff in their respective roles of revenue administration and registration less effectively. These guidelines can also be used by all stakeholders and partners who support counties in capacity development for revenue, administration, and registration purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, these two reports we are launching today form part of the deliverables of the Commission in fulfillment of one of our core mandates stipulated in Article 216 of the Constitution, Section 3, Sub-Article B, where the Constitution expects the Commission or requires that the Commission, when appropriate, to define and enhance sources of revenue for national and county governments. These reports underpin this stream work of the Commission. Notably, we are launching these two reports in the backdrop of a contracting fiscal envelope, compounded by spending pressure to contain the pandemic, stimulate the economy, and at the same time, start a program of much-needed fiscal consolidation. Clearly, it is almost an impossible covenant to achieve all three together. So under the prevailing fiscal circumstances and in the medium term, it is imperative that county governments ramp up their efforts to generate their own revenue. So I want to call on all Kenyans to pay their taxes, to pay their local taxes, to pay their property taxes, and pay their fines and fees, because that is the only path towards civilization, is the only path that will keep our counties growing and our country developing.
As UNDP and the UN family within Kenya, we have development partners that have worked very closely with us, and the resources that we have to be able to continue to support you. We have great gratitude to the governments of Finland, Sweden, and Italy that are part of supporting this joint UN Government of Kenya Devolution program as we work towards the SDGs. I think, colleagues, we cannot brush aside the fact that COVID-19 put a huge dent in the plans and progress and work that we wanted to have. And we know even this report itself would have been, these two reports would have been launched much earlier, but we had a number of challenges in the work that we wanted to do over the course of 2020. But I also think that this crisis has also made all of us recognize that there's an opportunity for all of us to build forward better, to recognize the importance of technology, to recognize the importance of inclusivity and getting ideas solidly from the ground for people who are resilient and who have honestly been resilient with a number of crises that they've had. In Kenya, we know it was just not COVID-19. We had the locusts invasion, we had floods, we had droughts, but communities still and families still made the most of those opportunities. And I think as much as we as the UN system have a solid partnership with the government of Kenya and the people of Kenya, I think what I would like to say is that we work with institutions and structures, and that's very, very important for building forward better. But I think we also need to make sure that we should recognize that we have rights holders, civil society organizations, communities that can also help to strengthen and also hold us collectively to account in terms of working towards the Sustainable Development Goals.
Through the County Assemblies Forum, this is a testament not only to the goodwill of the Commission, but also of the deliberate commitment to give technical support to devolved government to ensure the success of devolution. The County Assemblies Forum, CAF, ladies and gentlemen, is the coordinating body of the 47 county assemblies in Kenya, formed through the common goodwill of the devolved legislatures with a desire for a common voice. CAF's work focuses on enhancing good practice in legislative development in counties, promoting networking and synergy amongst the 47 assemblies, and coordinating intergovernmental relations with various stakeholders in devolution. CAF acknowledges that revenue collection in counties has remained low since the advent of devolution, owing to challenges stemming from the shortcomings of systems inherited from the defunct local government, gaps in law, and differing capacities to implement existing laws. As we join the Commission to launch the OSR report and OSR training guidelines today, we applaud that this is one of the essential efforts to strengthen county government by efficiently raising more revenue to grow the county economies and deliver services effectively. CAF therefore appreciates CLA commissioners and secretariat for diligently performing their constitutional role of, among others, recommending to both national and county government on matters concerning financial management and defining sources and enhancement measures of national and county revenue. We are therefore confidently expectant that the report we are here to launch will better inform us as county assemblies on the performance of our prospective counties in raising own source revenue and offer us tangible recommendations on how we may improve. This shall also aid county assemblies in, among other laws, approving county policies and the annual budget, and even performing oversight to hold the executives to account for the raising of county revenue. This is truly a huge step towards identifying opportunities for growth of our county economies, which have indeed been hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. The recommendations will go a long way to help us rebuild stronger and resilient economies that will better the lives of our people.
The National Treasury is in the process of implementing the Presidential Directive on development of a single revenue collection system integrated with the national government systems to be used across all 47 counties to help address the challenges faced by counties in procuring individual revenue management systems. Ladies and gentlemen, the training on on-source revenue for county governments so far has been done on an ad hoc basis by different organizations, including private firms, government agencies, and development partners. Although many trainings have been conducted, county government staff and policymakers still lack adequate capacity to execute their own source revenue, administration, and legislation role. We therefore commend the CRA for spearheading the development of guidelines for training county governments on on-source revenue administration and legislation through a multi-agency task force. This will ensure uniform approach in conducting the training. If appropriately implemented, the training guidelines will strengthen the technical capacity of both the county executives and the county assemblies in on-source revenue administration and ultimately improve on-source revenue performance. Finally, I'm looking forward to our various institutions working together in implementing of the on-source revenue report and the training guidelines.
What we are discussing is very, very important. The recommendations that you are making and what I'll also say is so key. You remember that this year, as a speaker, I've had one of the most difficult times in trying to preside over the formula for revenue allocation. It came down a record 11 times because when it comes to sharing any resources, especially money, is not easy. And we've sometimes we've found ourselves in the same pot with Jen, sometimes receiving a beating because everybody wants resources to go to their counties. So it has not been very easy. So if we can improve on-source revenue collection, that will minimize the acrimony that we see in the Senate in terms of getting a formula that will ensure that every county gets adequate money. The money is not enough, but at least get money that they can be able to do that. So I want to appreciate the recommendations that I've had the CRA make. Just observe that one that is very key is training needs to be standardized across counties. Because every county has been coming up with their own model of doing things, and sometimes that has not worked very effectively. So if we standardize the training, I'm sure that will really improve on-source revenue collection and even the management of the revenue that they collect. Two, the assemblies need to oversight on-source revenues, and they also need to actively legislate that. The county assemblies, and I'm happy that the CAF is here, please be courageous enough. The county assemblies, you are not there by accident. And when you oversight, when you point out issues that affect the counties, you are not doing that for personal gain. You are doing that because the Constitution of Kenya gives you the mandate to do that, and you represent people. You have been voted by people to represent their interests, and therefore you must oversight. And that oversight role was not an accident. So that when you do that, and the Senate also oversights the national revenues that go to the counties, we shall complement each other and ensure that there's prudent use of resources in our counties. Then number three, I also recommend that counties need to be realistic in a revenue projection for better budgeting. Because sometimes some of them have been very overambitious. Say, like the Auditor General said, you are going to collect 2 billion when you know you'll collect 1. And you see, once that is factored in the budget, it distorts your budgeting processes. So you also need to be very realistic in terms of projections so that you only declare or declare what you are able to collect. Then, of course, training and capacity development is key to all levels of revenue administration and legislation. So that is also very, very important. If all counties can automate the revenue collection, it will minimize corruption, it will minimize pilferage that is common in most of the counties. This will enhance the Senate's effort to push for equitable revenue sharing between national and county governments, and counties will hence reduce their over-reliance on the equitable share. So I really want to thank you, and congratulations to CRA once again for this launch, and we'll continue partnering, we'll continue improving our working relationship, and just also call upon the counties, please, when these resources come to the counties, let us use them prudently. Let people see a difference. Let people not get to a point where they start saying, like in the Bible, when Moses was leading the Israelites, they said, why did you bring us from where we were? We were better off. People should never start imagining that they were better off without devolution. Because devolution is the great thing that ever happened to the 2010 Constitution, and we must make our people realize the fruits of devolution.
In the report, revenue collection was categorized by clusters. So what we saw is that our counties can either be categorized as either being urban or peri-urban. They can be rural agro-based counties, or we can actually categorize some as being less economically endowed counties. That's what we found in the report. Number 2 is in terms of OSR growth. Now, the compound growth of OSR showed that most counties registered a positive growth, but we have a few that actually registered a negative growth. And if you allow me, I'll just mention them. We have Homa Bay, Busia, Wajir, and Mandera. What this means is that before devolution, they were collecting more, but for the first 6 years of devolution, they were actually at a negative. Number 3, what the report found out was about the capacity gap, revenue capacity gap. So what we found out in the report is that all counties except Samburu were able to collect revenue above their potential. So all the other counties, all the other 46 counties, collected revenue below their potential. And this is as per a study that was done by the National Treasury in 2018 that actually showed us the potential of the counties and how much they can collect as far as on-source revenue is concerned. The same report also shows us that cumulatively, all counties in Kenya, if they were actually to put in place systems in place and just collect revenue properly, then all counties would collect 172 billion. That's what the report shows. The other critical area that this report shows us is as far as revenue streams in counties is concerned. What we found out is that less than 10% of revenue streams in counties contribute more than 80% of what all counties collect. What does this tell us? It tells us that counties should only focus on those streams that can give them more than 80%. And as we've seen on the report, only 10% of those streams contribute more than 80%. The other key highlight in this report is the revenue mobilization efforts. So what does the report tell us? The report tells us that there is actually a clear relationship between OSR collection and the size of the economy and diversity. That is very clear. So the size of the economy is measured by GCP. So counties that have got a higher GCP, of course, have got higher revenue collection. That's what we find in this report. This report tells us that counties should actually be able to finance their own budgets. And I'm going to refer to a study that was done by OECD in 2016, which showed that subnational governments from low-income economies should finance at least 7.8% of their budgets, while subnational governments of middle-income countries should at least finance 20.9% of the budget. Now, what does that mean about us? From our report, we realized that our counties are faring not badly. They are there because we realized that counties are able to finance 7.7% of their budgets.
In 2014, the county assembly created the revenue board, like KPR revenue board. So when we joined government, the board existed on paper, but it wasn't operational. So you had I think the board was not even functional. I think you had the CEO, but more importantly, we had another person called Director of Revenue Collection, who was in finance. So effectively, what we did is we gave the board autonomy, and we allow them so we scrap the position of Director of Revenue Administration so that the CEO is effective, and then we offer the board autonomy, and then we transfer the staff. In fact, we told the board, appraise them for a year, retain those who have the right attitude, then return the rest to the center, which is the county secretary. So effectively, within a year, I mean, they were able to recruit other staff on a contract basis. So one of the things is that we, by offering the board autonomy and ensuring the people who are working for them, then that's a big booster. In fact, it's interesting, the staff who are recruited on contract for 1 year are now in management positions. And the second thing we've done is that we made revenue collection everybody's job. So remember, how does we collect revenue whenever we offer services, whether you are a veterinary officer, you are a trade officer. So every month, every department has revenue targets. And the governor chairs a revenue roundtable every month. I think it's the second week of every month. And through the revenue board, the roundtable, every officer reports what they've done. So effectively, everybody has a target, and CECs and chief officers are appraised on the revenue collection targets.
Makofi tafadhali, ladies and gentlemen. Makofi au tafadhali. The report. Asante sana. Makofi nyingine tafadhali.